flips the light on, and I see this creature, and I knew in my heart, I knew in my mind, in the whole night, this isn't a man.
And then this thing walks across the road, takes a turn towards us, and then leaps over a guardrail.
Went to look forward, and there was a big black thing, is all I can call it.
Welcome to Squatch-D TV, exploring the Bigfoot mystery each week with your hosts, veteran researcher, author, and TV personality, the Squatch detective, Steve Kulls, and from the Bigfoot Research Project of Kentucky, Chris Bennett. Sit back and buckle up as we bring you guests from around North America discussing the Bigfoot phenomena, but not without a few laughs too. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D TV, episode 62 for today's date, April 11th, 2021. I'm your host, your guide, the Squatch detective, Steve Kulls, along with my co-host, Mr. Chris Bennett. Hello, Chris.
Steve, how's it going, my man?
It is going well.
I'm looking forward to you coming down here. I just wish you'd got here a little sooner because the heavy lifting on the cabinet stuff, I could have used some help on that. But that's okay. We might have find some sheetrock to put up or something.
Well, you know, my timing is always perfect.
Yeah.
Hey, all the work's done. All right.
Yeah, show up just in time for supper.
That's right. I show up at dinner time. So let's do our roll call as we always do every week here. And hello to B. B, of course, being always the first one in chat.
Yeah.
Guess who else is in the chat? Amy Boo. Hello, Amy.
Oh, Amy. Hi, Amy.
Going to stick around for a little bit and see her compadre, Crystal.
Yeah.
And we got Brian49. Welcome, Brian.
Brian, welcome. Good to see you.
Lance from Canada. Hello, welcome.
Lance.
Welcome.
Hey, how you doing, guy?
And we got Arthur. Arthur, welcome. We got a lot of new folks in here, new faces. Good to see them.
Yeah.
Of course, David Winter.
Hi,
David, how are you? Of course, Mike. How you doing, Mike?
Big tack. Come on, Mike.
And we got John in the house. John, good to see you, sir.
Welcome, Mr. John.
Troy's Reviews. Hello, Troy. Good to see you.
Troy. Good to see you, bud.
Of course, one of our characters in the house, Ammon Chris. Hello, Ammon.
Chris, welcome, bud.
And of course, one of the people who survived the 3-hour chat and the 2-hour after show chat, Nikki. Hello, Nikki.
Nikki, congratulations on your survival.
Yes, I was on Squatch Talk Radio or Squatch Talk yesterday, and we were on for like 3 hours. It just went on and on and on, but it was great conversation.
Time flies sometimes. It does, yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, at the end of it, we ended up having this conversation after the show, and that lasted for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And
we do the same thing.
Yeah, we do. We end up on the and I'll
There's
tell you
a whole other show after the show.
Sometimes it's more entertaining than the show itself.
This is true. This is true.
And of course, we got to say hello to Bob Lemley. Good to see you, Bob. And of
Well,
course,
welcome, Bob.
our good friend Aaron. Aaron is back. Nani is in the
Good to
house.
see you, Aaron.
My neighbor.
Hi, Nani.
Hello,
Welcome.
Nani. Good to see you. We're
You better
okay.
be good, Steve. She'll throw a rock over the fence at you.
That's right. And Abe is in the house. Mr. Del Rio. Good to see you,
Hey,
sir.
welcome. Glad
Jerry
to see
Hine.
you.
Jerry, welcome. Terry.
Jerry.
Terry's one of our frequent
Terry.
flyers too. Hello, Terry.
Welcome.
And let's see.
Good to see you guys.
And I see an enigma. That's a great name.
Yes, it is.
Welcome.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And of course, we lost our place here. It's and of course we got Sean. Sean's in the house.
Hey, Sean.
Ed's in the house. Hello, Ed.
Welcome, Ed. Yeah.
And of course, another gentleman I'll be seeing this week as well.
Ed.
Mr. Day. Sherry's in the house. Hello, Sherry.
Hi, Sherry.
And a person I'll be seeing next this upcoming week, Mr. Dave Wickham. Hello, David.
Welcome, Dave.
So I think we've gotten that all done. I hope I didn't miss anybody. And the thing tends to move as I'm.
Yeah, the chat kind of hops a little bit. It's hard to keep up with. But if we missed anybody, we want to sure welcome everybody. We're glad to have each and every one of you every time. Appreciate it.
And you see, I never worry about content because our audience always has some great questions.
Oh, yeah.
And they always keep the show going. And hello to John. Good to see you, John.
Good to see you, John. Welcome.
So, that's the beauty of this show is that you guys kind of control where it goes sometimes. And I love that. And, here we are. Walt and Little Walt's in the house.
Big Walt, Little Walt. Welcome, guys.
Oh, is tonight WrestleMania?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh. Diane's in the house. Hello, Diane.
Welcome.
Over there from Goosebumps Paranormal.
Well, if Diane's here, I wonder if Jimmy's here.
Oh, Jimmy's lurking somewhere. He's probably using Diane's account. I'm just gonna go on my head. That's where I send out all my hate mail. I get on my wife's account and I send all the hate mail out. And then
Steve's mailbox is full on Mother's Day.
And of course we got a Kino, I believe is how you pronounce that. Well, welcome. Good to see you, sir.
Aquino? Yeah. Well, if we've mispronounced that, I sure apologize, but that is a very interesting first name.
So anyway, let's say hi to our guest.
Hi, guys.
Hey, our guest today is Crystal, who's usually in the chat, but today she's on the show. So good to see you today, Crystal. How's things in the Granite State?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. So excited to be here.
Well, we always have fun. And like I said, this is like a talk amongst friends. And of course, we got the Peanut Gallery out there and they're just a bunch of friends too. So we're all good. Akio just asked, how come your podcast is not on the Overcast app? I don't know. I will look into that. See if we can't get it onto the Overcast app. I'm not sure.
Okay. Is that that's not familiar with me. Of course, I've not listened to many podcasts the last little bit. Overcast?
Yeah. Overcast.
Okay. Okay.
We'll give it I'll take a look into it tonight.
Yeah, definitely.
It could be if it's an audio podcast, then that should be fairly simple. I'll just hook it up with the Anchor FM.
Yeah.
If it's a video, then I'll figure that one out too. So, but anyway, so Crystal, I always ask the opening shot is how in the world did you get caught up? First of all, tell us before I do that. Introduce yourself. What do you do in Bigfoot research? Because you do a lot. So
I do a lot. Actually, I got my interest in all things cryptid and especially Bigfoot back in 1978. I had an encounter in upstate New York. So that's actually was my driving force to trying to learn as much as I can about Bigfoot and anything paranormal, UFO, anything. I'm fascinated by it because people are seeing things and I need answers to know what I saw. So living up here in New England, though, I didn't realize that there were all these different groups that get together. And, you know, my first conference was I went to the Ohio Bigfoot conference. I was so excited. I learned about all these different groups on Facebook.
Yeah.
So, and you know, finding Bigfoot. So, I love Abe, but he picks on me all the time. But yeah, so that's really what drove me into doing what I do now. And I think it was around 2008, 2009. My daughter actually had an encounter here where we live now. And that was when I first reached out to the BFRO and wanted to learn, you know, wanted to share our encounters. And when the Finding Bigfoot team came here to New Hampshire, I saw that they had put a letter, you know, a little article in the newspaper that said, if you've had an encounter, I'm sorry. If you've had an encounter.
No, I'm sorry. I thought it was Chris's dog. I
That was mine.
Chris, what have you been feeding those little dogs?
Not me.
I have a German Shepherd and a Great Pyrenees mix.
Oh,
I have two horses.
Little dogs.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I shared my daughter's encounter on, we had to email them, and they invited us to the Finding Bigfoot town hall meeting. So we went to the town hall meeting, and as we were getting ready to leave, the place was vacated. It was a snowstorm. It was after 10 o'clock. It was really, really late. I stopped my daughter and I said, I need to go talk to Moneymaker. And she's like, why? Let's go home. And I'm like, no, I just need 10 minutes. So I walked back and said, you know, hey, you know, you have no active researchers here in the state of New Hampshire. What do I need to do to become a BFRO investigator? And we had an interview, and she provided me with a name and number of a person I needed to contact. And next thing you know, I'm a member of the BFRO. I've been with them since 2015.
Cool.
So I love talking to people about their encounters. And, you know, I try to get out into the woods as much as I can. Unfortunately, I had some medical issues a little while back, which kind of hindered me going out into the woods as much as I'd like. But, you know, I'm feeling better and looking forward to the future, and you'll be seeing more of me in the woods. So
Awesome.
Looking forward to it.
So let's start with your encounter. Where in upstate New York did you have your encounter?
I had my encounter in Oswego, New York.
Okay. Very
and
cool.
That was in upstate New York. I don't know if you want me to jump right into it and I can share.
Yeah. Well, us upstaters don't consider that upstate New York. We consider that Western New York. See,
okay.
Upstate is where I am.
It's pretty up there.
Yeah, it's true, but it's west.
But Western upstate, how's that?
That's a little
better.
You know, I you know, it's like saying that you know, Tack lives in upstate New York. Yeah, I mean, what is upstate New York? Anything that's not New York City? I mean, I get really burned when people in Middletown say, "Oh, we're from upstate New York." No, I'm less than 150 miles from Montreal. I'm upstate. So,
well, how far is Oswego from where you are now?
Oh, about 150 miles.
Yeah, New York's big. We went up there to go visit, and I'm like, okay, we got to get to exit. Buffalo is like 80 miles away. Glad we're not going there. And then we just kept going.
I mean, Chris called it Whoop State.
But, yeah, so my encounter, I fidget a lot when I tell it, so I'm sorry if I fidget a lot.
No, that's okay.
So we had come home one night. It was October. It was actually my sister and I have a twin, and our birthday was that next morning. So we had come home. Our trailer, there were 3 trailers in that little area. So ours was the closest to the woods. And we came home, and as we were getting ready to walk into the house, my mom had noticed that the back door had practically been ripped off the hinges. So she rushed us back to the car, and she called the sheriff's office, and the sheriff came, and they determined that nothing was stolen. So my mom, I don't know how she jimmy rigged it. I've always wanted to ask her that, you know, like, how did you close that door that night? But my twin and I, our bedroom was directly across from that busted door. So I was on the top bunk, she's on the bottom bunk, and my mom had left that hall light on for like a night light. So I woke up to my sister calling my name, Crystal, Crystal.
Yeah.
And I sat up, and there was this huge hairy thing just backlit, and standing in our doorway of our room.
Oh.
And
Oh dear.
I was too terrified to climb down the front of the bed. So I squeezed myself between the wall and the bed to get down to her bunk. And we just huddled. I don't remember us ever making a noise or screaming, but then it started walking in. And that's when I always say it gets a little weird from here, because as soon as it walked in, my twin and I don't remember anything. Everything went black. So the next, I guess, morning, we were still huddled in that bottom bed, and we got up and walked down the hall into the living room, and there's this big bay window in the back overlooking the backyard.
Yeah.
And we looked out this window, and we made eye contact with this creature. It stood up from behind this old car that was in the backyard, just turned around and walked into the woods. So we said, it's been so long ago, I don't remember like everything that happens, but I remember telling my mom, and she had shared with us that she had an encounter in those same exact woods when she was a little girl.
Wow.
So she had an encounter and saw this thing. She felt like she was being watched, and she was building a snowman. And this thing just stood up out of the snowbank, turned around, and took off into the woods with, my grandfather's dog chasing after it. So the dog did come back. I know a lot of people ask that. Yes, the dog did come back, and
Now, what year was your encounter?
Mine was in 78.
Okay. And your mom's was approximately 20, 30 years prior to that?
Not even that long. My mom was a baby when she had us. So, I don't know exactly how old she was. But
probably in the 60s.
Probably couldn't have been. Yeah, it was definitely in the 60s.
Awesome.
So, but so that was our encounter. I've been toying with the idea for 100 years. That's really not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
To do I want to do hypno-regression to see if I can remember what its face looked like, because everybody tells me, what does it look like? What did it look like? I can't tell you.
And you were
all I can remember are its eyes.
And you were how old back then?
It was our 6th birthday.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So that's kind of hard to remember all the.
There's probably going to be a good chance that was just like, that's going to be blocked out because that had to be traumatic for a 6-year-old. Had to be.
Well, I'd like to know what happened from that time span of it walking in and then everything going black.
Wow. So you didn't.
So neither one of us can remember anything that happened from the point of it walking in until the next morning.
Yep. Yeah, and that's very common with trauma. I've talked about that a lot of times. When somebody has such a traumatic experience, being that young, your mind as a self-defense kind of gives you selective amnesia on certain things.
Yeah,
and that's a prime example of one there. Wow.
So I'm hoping that the hypno, I did finally find somebody. I had listened to Todd Neese speak, and he had mentioned that he had done hypno-regression, and he mentioned who had done his session with him. And I reached out to him immediately after the podcast that I had listened to him on, and the gentleman agreed to do my session. So hopefully within the next couple months, I can have this done.
Yep.
And
Nice.
I'd try to remember facial features.
So we got a comment in the chat from, he's been here the last couple of weeks. Welcome, Brian and Chewy Go Hiking. He said, "Hey, Crystal, had an encounter in Glen, New Hampshire in 2003, ran its hand across my tent and let out a guttural growl grunt that shook my insides. Not loud, but deep, extremely deep, that I couldn't move. Perhaps maybe a touch of infrasound in there too."
I actually, one of the cases I handled here in New Hampshire was a buffalo farmer who had some, when a buffalo dies, all he would do is drag it across the river into the field and let nature take its course.
Yeah.
And he was a smoker, so he went out onto his deck and was listening to the coyotes having a field day on this carcass.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this roar came up from alongside the stream on its way towards that kill site, or the, where it was.
Right.
And this thing let out a roar so loud, he felt it reverberate in his chest, and just scared the living bejeebies out of him. But I wish he had seen it, but he said the coyotes like scattered. So I'm curious to know. I believe he definitely had an encounter.
Very, very common too, that when people hear it scream, they feel it in the chest.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm hoping one day to have that sensation.
Yeah. And Sam is very happy he's here live today and not the next day. Hello, Sam.
Good to see you, Sam. Welcome. Glad to have you.
So, wow, that's incredible. I mean, do you recall anything afterwards? I mean, like how you felt the next day, or I mean, it must have shook you guys up pretty much. You guys must have been. I mean, how's your sister taking the whole thing? How'd she take?
She doesn't have anything to do with this. I've talked to her about, like, how about we do these sessions together and record it, and then that way we can compare what we remember. So she does one session, I do one, then do a comparison. And I wanted to film it so we have true reactions.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't want to have anything to do with that. She doesn't like to talk about Bigfoot. She doesn't, So we've had some other odd encounters that happened to us growing up. One time when we were in high school, we were living up in Littleton, New Hampshire, way up north. And as kids then, we didn't have internet or phones or whatever. So we were always in the woods. So we always built these really elaborate forts covered with ferns, windows, doors. It was, it was a blast. But one day we were out there gathering ferns for one of our forts, and this smell, the smell hit us like a wall. And we didn't even have to, it was, how they say a smell can trigger a memory? That's kind of like what it was. Like, we didn't even say anything. We just stopped what we were doing, looked at each other, and bolted to the house to go get my dad, because we wanted him to come out to the woods so he could smell it too. Right. But of course, by the time we, we're like, you got to come out. And we didn't want to say, hey, there's something out there, but we were still trying to get him out there because, back then too, it was something you didn't really talk about. We never told anybody about our encounters. We were always told, don't say anything, just don't say anything. Even my aunts and uncles, I talked to her recently about it, and she was like, oh yeah, I remember when that happened. We were told not to say anything to anybody. So it was just kind of like a taboo subject, and we never really talked about it. Right. So
yeah, the 70s, 80s, and 90s were really Bigfoot. Well, the 70s, the beginning of the 70s, people were still talking about. By the end of the 70s, it had become quite a taboo.
Yeah.
And it remained that way up until shows like Finding Bigfoot came out. A lot of people, if anything, my people criticized that show, but it took the Bigfoot, stigma out of it kind of a bit.
Well, when that show came out, when I was even, a little kid, anytime I'd even go to the library, the first section I would go to is I'd go to the library and look for books on Bigfoot.
Yeah.
UFOs and ghosts. I wanted to read everything I could about those subjects, obviously specifically Bigfoot, but I wanted to learn more, and it just fascinated me. People are seeing this thing, and like I said, I didn't even know any of these groups existed until shows like Finding Bigfoot and Facebook came out, and then I do, my very first internet search in 1995, when I had my first chance at the internet, was I typed in the words Bigfoot, and this forum popped up, and I shared my encounter on this forum, but then I was so terrified of any backlash or comments that would be made that I just never never went back out there again. I was terrified. I can't believe I just shared that with people. So, but then.
But it is empowering. Once you do it, it becomes very empowering.
Now I feel really good. You see me, I'm my hands are fidgeting. I'm doing all. when I would share this encounter with, very rarely did I ever share it, but I had shared it a couple times with like friends at a sleepover and things like that. And I would always be bawling my eyes out. So now I don't cry anymore, which is good.
Yeah.
But what really got me going into this too was living here in New Hampshire. We live in a log cabin. We do have a stream that runs in the back. And I worked from home and I was in my office and I said, my daughter happened to be home that day from school. And I said, hey, I got to make a phone call. You know the rules. Be quiet. No noise. So I shut my office door and I'm on the phone with this customer. And all of a sudden she's beating on the door, screaming. So I'm trying to cover the phone up, like, I'm sorry, my daughter's here. And I'm trying to be quiet, so I take a stapler and I throw it at the door, like, stop. So then I finally tell the guy, I'm sorry, can I call you back? And I hang up the phone. I rip the door open because I'm going to yell at her because the rules, I'm working. I rip open the door and she grabbed onto me like clinging to me. And she's crying and she's like in hysterics. And I'm like, whoa, what's the matter? And she says, a big hairy man just walked by the window. She didn't know about my encounter. So, and that time, that was
sure
before finding Bigfoot. So I'm like, what? I run to the window. We're the only two home. So I'm looking out the window. Was it a bear? It was walking on two legs. It walked by the window and walked into the woods. She could see only from, like this part down to its waist, and its arm went by the window as it walked into the woods. So
pretty tall.
My ears going like, okay, now I've seen something. My mom saw something when she was a little girl. Now my daughter's seen something. What are people seeing? I needed to know more. So, and that's kind of why I do what I do now. I love talking to people. I love people sharing their encounters with me, and I'm seeking evidence. I try not to be I don't say I'm a skeptic, but I'm really hard on evidence. So
as you should be. Yep.
And people get mad at you when you say, well, that could be this. And then they're like, you're a negative Nancy, you Debbie Downer, you. Right. No, I'm just trying to get answers. And if we don't have any proof, then we don't have any, it's not really an answer.
Right.
Now, do you find it, obviously, I think you do find it very difficult as an investigator and a researcher of these things to deal with confirmation bias. I mean, everybody that has this little dot on a picture or, has, something that a borderline type of encounter want to believe it's Bigfoot. And it's a big downer when it is a downer for them, but it's because of their own confirmation bias. I mean, do you feel that goes on quite a bit?
Yeah, I feel really bad when I have to tell somebody, well, one case I can think of was a gentleman was out in the woods and he was working on some stuff. So then he decided to do some calls. So as he's doing these calls, he sees some branches moving. And then, of course, everybody says, oh, it was a juvenile, it was a baby, it was this, it was that. Well,
nobody saw it.
I had to say, you didn't see anything, but you were out there calling. You could have called in any number of creatures now who want to see what you are.
Or you could have scared them too.
Exactly. So people were so mad at me but I'm like, but this gentleman was so nice. He said, thank you so much for being honest with me and giving me your honest, feedback, because I don't know what I saw. And I said, I don't want to be like, no, that's not what you saw, but I'm looking for answers and proof.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
So, but I do that when I do paranormal investigating as well. So, I go into every place looking for alternatives as to what something could be versus it's haunted.
Yeah. Oh, you have to. Yeah,
so,
you have to.
Yeah, it never surprises me. It never ceases to amaze me how many people that have their first sighting, and if they're speaking to me about it, they're going to say, I didn't think we had those things. I thought those things were like in the Pacific Northwest up there around Northern California or Washington State or something. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're around.
when the New York episode came out, I was just like, I told you. I kept trying to tell my husband. My husband and my other daughter, are non-believers. So I try to persuade him, but he doesn't believe.
Well,
but he supports me in everything I do. So that's a
you
good
had
thing.
me interested when you was talking about the door had been ripped off its hinges. That's right down my alley. I've had that happen here.
I wish we had pictures, you know, like when my daughter had her encounter here, of course, I didn't know things to look for. Like, I had never researched anything. So, I mean, I had done like little ghost hunts through cemeteries and things like that. And, but as far as Bigfoot related, I didn't investigate that. I would do all the reading I could on it, but, I didn't know to go out and look for tracks. Did I see hair? Did I see? And now, you know, hindsight, I wish I had gone outside. I was going to go outside, but then she's hanging on to the back of my sweater, you know, dragging because she didn't want me to go outside. You know, we were the only ones home alone. So it was I wish I could go back and take a look at everything that happened there.
Now, oh, there she is.
Come on, get down.
He's like, come on, give me some loving.
She's trying to tell me she wants to go outside.
Oh, geez. So here's a question. If I didn't lose it. What are some of the you know, as you started becoming an investigator, you know, I always graciously tell my story of finding my track in 2003, and I didn't have any plaster with me. I was so dang mad at myself. So what are some of the missteps that new investigators take? I mean, you know, drawing from your own experience. I mean, have you taken any missteps like that?
I think all investigators do.
Absolutely.
So, you know, we do our best. I actually had found a trackway that I would love to have tried to cast, but you know, there was no real good. It was in moss along a stream. Yeah. So of course it's made these impressions in the moss, but you know, I did the best I could on the measurements. They were fairly small, about 12 inches, 13 inches or so. So again, I can't say definitively what that was. It could have been a person, but it was right after a house smacking incident. So, you know, trying to find a way to do tracks, and to be able to cast that. I'm still looking for that really good castable track. I haven't found one yet. I try, but
well, you live in the Granite State.
Yeah, so it is hard to find really good tracks, and you know, of course, I find moose and deer and things like that. But unfortunately, I guess one thing that is a downfall is when you have your recorder going and all the leaf litter, and you're walking. Yeah, that overpowers everything. I was out on an expedition with the guys from Squatch-Massachusetts. Yep. And we heard a clear, distinctive whoop, and I had my recorder going. I was so excited, and we could not catch it over the leaf litter noise. It was so loud. So we were so bummed that we couldn't, you know, we didn't have that proof that, oh, we caught it because of the leaf litter noise. So, but I love what I do. It's so much fun.
Guess who is in the house? OT is in the house.
OT, welcome.
And also, we got Mark in the house too.
Hey, Mark, good to see you.
And Prairie Fires also showed up as well.
Prairie Fire, welcome.
Good to see you. So everybody is slowly making their way in. OT is usually here early to get a good seat, as he likes to say. Today he's in the bleachers today.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, Crystal, one of my favorite things to do would be like go out in the woods, and I would find me a nice, comfortable tree and lean back against it, and just sit there and listen.
I'm a listener too. I have been out with people who, as soon as we've gone out into the woods, they start hooping and hollering and tree knocking.
Right.
Everybody does it differently. I'm a quiet person. I like to just sit and listen and see what comes my way.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's peaceful and it's relaxing, and
mhm.
I gotta tell anybody that wants to find themselves, all they gotta do is just go sit in the woods and listen.
Yep. But I'm not saying anybody who knocks or does any of that is
Oh
wrong,
no,
because it's not.
no.
So
If everybody did the same thing, it'd be kind of boring, you know. But
right.
different things people try and get different results.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But I
So
see
did-
Amy Boo's out here, and we went on an
Everybody's here.
expedition in South Carolina together, and that was an amazing trip because we had to hike in with all of our gear and just hike in for miles, and it was like uphill and then into this canyon, and it was amazing. We had the best time out there. So, but I wouldn't have given that up for the world.
Yep.
To just that whole experience of just backpacking in with everything. It was amazing.
So I also want to, and they let's see. Patrick's in the house too. Sorry I'm late. No need
Welcome,
for
Pat.
apologies. You're here. You made it.
OT's killing me over there in the chat with his
And we
pro
got
tips.
Rod is in the house. Yeah, OT is pro tip. Ask to borrow the bat from the tree knocker and bounce it off their skull.
Oh man. Well, you know,
and
I
Amy
think,
says Crystal was a beast.
I was the woodcutter. I had a chainsaw, one of those chainsaw blades for cutting wood,
right.
and you just have to get the friction just right to get it going. And
Yeah.
it was a great workout, and it was a lot of fun.
And I think Jay wants to do a new movie called Finding Crystal.
Oh, okay.
If we can do the hypnosis session, that would be awesome.
I'd be afraid to be hypnotized. Stuff will come out of my mouth. People.
You know, it's funny. I probably shouldn't say this. Many years ago, I had a dental appointment, and they used that sodium pentothal.
Uh-oh.
And when I came through, I was crying, and I'm like, oh my God, what did I tell these people?
Anybody in the office is whispering to each other, and they all get quiet when you walk in. Like,
that's her.
Mm-hmm. So I was so afraid when I left there. I was like, I don't think I ever went back to that office again because I was just, what did I tell these people?
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, actually, I can't wait to get into a dentist office, but the problem is, I can't get a COVID shot. I don't know what the deal is here. I signed up for the checklist and everything, and they're giving them out at the pharmacies. And I called to get an appointment. I'm sorry, our appointment book is full right now. Please try back next week.
My daughter and my husband are going next week, and my other daughter, she's scheduled for next month, and I'm still waiting.
Yeah. Well, of course, I wanted Steve to get his, okay, because he's up there in New York, and it was really thick up there. But, you know, come on, guys, we had some here in Kentucky too, you know.
Yep. Well, I got my, I'm getting my second shot on a week from Tuesday. So I already have my first shot.
Yep.
So, and no side effects other than a sore arm the next day. That was the only complaint I had.
Yeah, I want to talk to my doctor first before I jump into it. So I'd rather make sure everything's going to be good to go before I do anything.
Yep.
Then I'll do it. So, but
I'm ready for mine.
What else can I tell you?
Watched the episode of South Park. They were talking about those COVID shots.
Oh, I saw that they were going to do that. I haven't seen that. I typically don't.
Pretty good.
But...
Yeah, it was pretty good. No spoilers.
Is it worth it though?
You got my cheesy poofs.
It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Wow. Let's see. Well, everybody's talking about the pokes they've gotten. Yeah, John's got his second poke.
Good.
Bob Lemley says, they killed Kenny. You bastards. Yeah, so tell me about, I'm going to try to make this easy. Tell me about the first investigation you can remember as a BFRO investigator.
Actually, my very first one was that buffalo farmer, the
Okay.
gentleman with the with the reverberation in his chest. Some of my favorite ones.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, I should say, if you look at the BFRO website, you'll see that we only have like 16 public cases,
Yep.
and in reality, I'm currently working like 30 cases, plus I have like another 100 in my backlog, not including there's like 400 cases, 392 cases here in the state of New Hampshire alone.
Hello, Edward.
But people are so they want their privacy up here, so that they don't want anybody to know. Like, they'll share with us a location for us to do our research.
Yeah.
And they don't want us to make this site public because they don't want trespassers, and they don't want their neighbors to know. And so they're very, very quiet here. I've tried. I know maybe for you guys in New York, it's getting a little bit easier, but like here in New Hampshire, people still don't talk about Bigfoot. My license plate on my car is Bigfoot, and I'm hoping that people will talk to me about Bigfoot. But it's funny, if I'm out and about, nobody says anything to me. But if my husband drives my car, they're all like, "Oh, I got to tell you something," and he's like, "No, not me."
You know what that is? That is, unfortunately, that's just being sexist. Because they figure, it's the Bigfoot probably belongs to the male. The male's probably a Bigfoot researcher. So that's probably why that's going on.
So it drives me crazy, because then he'll hand him my card, and then he's like, "Oh, I'll reach out to my wife. She's the one that handles that. I keep cards in the car," and I never hear back from any of them.
Yeah.
So, or I'll hear an encounter third party. Oh, so and so saw this Bigfoot this weekend outside of his house, and I'm like, well, have him call me because I'll be out there tomorrow. But then they just don't want anybody to know. It's just so taboo, still. I've called libraries and things to try to do talks and stuff. I know you had Alexander Petikoff on recently, and he does a lot of talks.
Let me just jump in here before I forget. Edward Monge's in the chat, one of our guests in the past. Great guy over there at Bigfoot Quest Radio, or Bigfoot Quest podcast. And I want to congratulate Ed on getting into the New York Film Academy. So he is
congratulations.
Congrats.
Going to be taking classes on direction and production. So that's that was one of his dreams, and he is off fulfilling his dreams. Congratulations, my friend. Very happy for
Congratulations.
you. So I want to just throw a shout out to him real quick. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
That's
Chris.
why, as soon as my kids got old enough, I said, I'm doing things for me now. I have teenagers now, so that's why I do, my Bigfooting now, and I do all this stuff that I want to do now. Yeah, because they're older now. Yeah. So I go on a lot more expeditions and try to get out more. So I can. It's my dream and my passion. So, but I forgot where I was going before. So. Which is not hard.
I don't have a train of thought. I have a train wreck of thought. I often say that.
So, hang on 1 second. Hang on.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Maybe we'll, if you need to, we'll take a quick minute or so break.
Yeah.
Sorry, my daughter. I could hear somebody coming down the stairs behind me, and I said, "Please let the dogs out."
Please let the dogs out. Oh, I better not sing that. YouTube will hit me up for.
Yeah, normally we have four Yorkies that belong to my wife. I won't claim any of them; they belong to her. And usually, when they were in the same room with me, I would have to have treats to bribe them. Otherwise, we would have fights and all kind of. On some of the old shows were hilarious. I mean. Yep. But just about every show, the dogs would come in and demand their treats.
Demand, and they do. They demand.
Yeah, demand.
But I can if you're going to take a break, I can share some of the other encounters that people have had in the state that are some of my favorites.
Yes,
oh, please,
certainly.
Go ahead.
So I think we'll take our quick Snapple break, And we'll be right back in a second. Let everybody reset for a quick second here. Here we go. Let me just oh yeah, it would help if I actually call the video file up. It would help. You know, this is all, you know, I'm working so many different bells and whistles here sometimes. There we are.
I gotta get caught up with the chat room here. I'm missing out a bunch, I think.
We'll be right back.
Are you Bigfooters thirsty out there? Well, I suggest to get a delicious, refreshing Snapple. Yes, even the most famous Bigfoot rush to the store to get themselves their favorite beverage, a delicious peach Snapple. No need to be cranky when you can just ask your loved one for a delicious beverage.
Got it? Joe, get me a Snapple.
And don't be in such a hurry, there's plenty at the store.
Get me a Diet Peach Snapple.
Try delicious peach Snapple.
Joe, get me a Snapple.
Do I think we're being watched? Absolutely. Is Bigfoot real? Bigfoot is absolutely 100% real. My name is Jason Weaver, and I'm a Bigfoot researcher, experiencer. You know, there's believers and there's knowers, and I'm a knower. Georgia's very active. It's one of the hotbeds in the country. You'll see trees that'll be bent over like this, and the top part of the tree will be driven into another tree. That's an example right there. I mean, that's kind of the stuff that they do. Some have seen them as big as 12 foot, allegedly, but the average is usually anywhere from 7 to 9 foot tall. Sasquatch need plenty of cover, lots of wooded areas, lots of forest areas. They need plenty of fresh water. This is not a subject you can just bring up to anyone. A lot of people will look at you like your cheese is slipping off your cracker if you talk about such things. This is the buttocks imprint. I believe the print was left in the snow or the mud. That's a butt right there for sure. One of my techniques that I use to lure Bigfoot out of hiding is gifting them things. The best tool you can take in that situation is always keep an open mind.
Well, what about this? This work?
New Realm Hazy Like a Fox IPA. I don't think anybody's ever gifted a craft beer, so fruit's a big integral part of their diet, so a fruity flavor and is smooth, I think it'd be a great option.
So what if we built a bar big enough for Bigfoot?
I don't think that's ever been tried. Well, that's perfect. You guys are crazy. He sat here. His shoulders would probably be right about there. I think it's the perfect size for a Bigfoot. What I'm going to do is project the sound of this can of beer opening, and the sound will carry for miles into the woods in hopes of luring them back here to the bar. Get the scent in the air. Hopefully any motion that comes into our area, we'll catch it on camera.
And take a little breather as we move along. So I'm having a little technical difficulty on my side. You guys hearing me?
Okay, I hear you. Yeah.
All right.
I'm unmuted. I think Crystal's still muted, though.
I'm unmuted now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right, excellent. All right.
Yeah. The craft beer Bigfoot one kind of drug a little bit, and then it speeded up real fast. But the end, the best part though was still there. That's good.
Well, no, I popped over to YouTube to see if it was streaming normally. Apparently, that drag is only on our side of it, not on the streaming side.
Okay,
of it.
might be good. Well, it should have played good then.
So yeah, I've actually caught some of it. I don't know what it is. It's something about the processor. It's very annoying. That's been going on a lot. So I'm gonna have to make a note to StreamYard about that. Why is it dragging? So you've been to several states now doing investigations. I know you've done stuff in Ohio before.
Well, I didn't really investigate going to conferences, obviously,
Okay.
The Ohio Bigfoot conference. That was a must. Bob Gimlin was there. I had to go meet him. And that was the first time I had gone to a conference, actually, was the first year Bob was there. And it was like the legend. I had to go and meet him. So I've been pretty fortunate over the years and have been able to do more things with him. I wouldn't say, like, oh, he's my best friend, he calls me. That doesn't happen. But it was cool when we went to Willow Creek. I did do the 50th. I went with Henry May, Abe Del Rio, Kevin, and Rick Derriola was there. We had a blast, and we ended up being able to go to the birthday party, Bob's birthday party, and I got to meet a bunch of people there as well. So it's like a big family reunion. So it was just always so much fun to go. So, but doing Willow Creek with Abe and Kevin and everyone, we had such a blast. Stories to tell. Upon stories. We decided to go to the Willow Creek sign and just take some photographs there. And we got to the sign, I didn't realize we were going to be doing anything else, and I don't think anybody else had planned on doing anything else either. So, but we ended up driving to the film site and then hiking in. And, as much as I would do it again, we were so unprepared. We didn't have water. We had no backpack. I mean, we had nothing. We were just like, come on, let's go check it out. Right. So I don't recommend doing that, but I wouldn't give it up again for the world. We got out there and we're driving around, and I did not realize how far everything is apart up there. So when we left Willow Creek, I had like half a tank of gas, quarter tank of gas, maybe. If I had known everything was so far, I would have filled up, because I was about this close from running out of gas. I had to switch cars and jump in with Abe and them and drive. Diane Neese was with us, and it was so much fun. I wouldn't give it up again for the world, but it was a hike, and not being prepared, not wearing the proper gear, not proper shoes, but we actually did it, and I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Well, was it a pretty good hike from the car, Crystal, to get to the film site?
It was a good hike, a lot of uphill, downhill across the river, and then there's really no set trail. So, I mean, the guys from the, my mind just went blank. Steven Struford's group with Jamie Wayne and those guys, they do have the one trailhead marked where there is a trail, but as soon as you get back in there to the river, we weren't 100% sure where to go. Yeah. We just knew we had to cross the river. Yeah. And we did. We actually ended up finding the site, and we ran into Daniel Perez, and he was out there and kind of showed us around. So it was really cool to show us the trees and the stumps that you see in the original film. The stumps are still there, so those haven't really changed besides rotting a little bit, but it was really cool. It definitely has changed a lot, but it was so neat to get out there, and I can definitely see how a creature could hide in such an environment, because everything's so big. Right. I picked up an oak leaf, and it was like the size of a dinner plate. It was gigantic. So I can see how things could hide in the Pacific Northwest very easily.
Well, I love that area. It's beautiful. All the mountains and the trees. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, it was October, and we were in California, and I'm like, I don't need to bring a jacket. Yeah. It froze my butt off.
Yeah.
So, but it was a lot of fun. We had a really good time. I do stuff here, looking around here, expedition down in South Carolina with Amy, and Melissa Winadair was there, Christy Condi, Mike Richburg was there, so it was that was a blast. It was a challenge, and it was a good challenge. So just being able to make out
that's
there.
one of the things I want to do too. Crystal, I want to get out and go to the Patterson-Gimlin film site one of these days. If I make it that long, that's one of the things on the bucket list I'd like to do.
Bucket list item.
Yeah.
It was a must.
I enjoy it. Yeah.
It definitely was. To get out there for the 50th, it was just amazing because we actually went out to the film site on the anniversary. And we were probably there around the same time that they filmed it, that same time frame, because we saw Kip Morrow on the way out when we were hiking in, and we said, okay, if we're not at the conference and soon after it starts, please send help because we're probably lost.
Yeah, there's a difference between a marked trail and a well-maintained marked trail. Right.
So, I think by the time we got to the conference, even though I had to find a place to get gas, so luckily I managed to find a place on the reserve. It was one gas station, and it happened to still be open, thank God. So I got gas, and by the time we got to back to where the conference was, we were exhausted, wet, because we were wet because we had to cross the river. So we all took our shoes off, but then of course, your pant legs get wet. You don't realize how deep it is. So it was still a blast. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. That wasn't our intention to go out to the film site, but when you're out there and you're all gung ho and you're all excited.
Oh,
you're like,
yes. You get into the moment, nothing's tough. Nothing's too tough. You got to get out there.
Exactly. And then of course I'm trying to drive after Abe Del Rio, MMBRT. He drives like a madman. So he had to keep pulling over and wait for me to catch up. I don't know these windy roads, but he just, it was so much fun. We call it, we have a little group with them called the Fab Five, and we're hoping that someday we can do more traveling. We want to go up to Canada. We want to go up to Snellgrove Lake. I want to go there. That's a bucket list item. So I want to do a lot more in this Bigfoot industry. I want to learn as much as I can, and I want to get the proof that we're seeking. Yeah. So I mean,
that's one of the things I want to do too. I want to get out there to the Patterson-Gimlin film site, and then I'd like to make the route that they went when they took the film and stuff, and watch my watch and time things. I love doing investigations, but also I would like to be there for just the knowledge of knowing, hey, this is the Patterson-Gimlin film site, dude. This is where it took place. 50 some years ago, 53, 54 now, something like that.
Something like
53,
that.
Yeah.
53 maybe.
Wow.
So, but yeah, we had such a blast, and I'd like to eventually be able to do a lot more on the West Coast. It seems like there's a lot more on the West Coast than there is on the East Coast as far as Bigfoot. I know Lauren Coleman now is doing his international cryptozoology conferences, and those are a lot of fun as well. But I think more and more people are coming around to the idea of Bigfoot, especially nowadays. It's become very popular. So
that's the thing. Do you think that the shows like Finding Bigfoot and the other shows have added to the awareness that's going on now?
I definitely think so. I think a lot more people are aware of it. More people are coming out of the woodwork. Like I never would have shared my encounter had these shows not come out. And then I learned that there were all these communities that existed out there.
Right.
I probably never really would have said anything. I saw something unusual and that would have been that. And, now that I know that there's all these groups, you feel really good being able to talk to people about, your experience, and then hearing their encounters and their experiences, and then being able to just talk about it. And it makes you feel really good.
I was kind of wondering, Crystal, I had this theory. Do you think that these creatures enjoy watching human children or fascinated by human children. I noticed that you had your encounter when you were 6, and one of my earliest encounters around here happened when I had my son, who was like 4 or 5 years old at the time, with me, and the creature seemed to be fixated on watching him and my wife. And so, do you think they're interested in watching human children or fascinated by them?
I think so. I know that there's been people going out on expeditions now and playing like children's parties and things like that to try to lure them in to try to really try anything. So, but when I look back at our encounter, my twin and I, of course, then I'm thinking it's this big, monstrous, giant, hairy thing. But now when I'm using my thought process and my logic, okay, so here's the door frame. Its head was right at the door, at the door frame. I could see the light over its shoulders.
Right.
So how high is the door frame in a trailer? 7 feet. So is that 7 feet? Is that, I don't even know. I wish I knew the exact measurements, but then you think about more and more of it. So was this a juvenile that was interested in checking us out?
Yeah.
So I don't think it was an adult, just due to the size of where its head was on the door frame, taking up that door frame with the light coming over its shoulders.
Well, I'm just going to be able to humiliate me or shame me and keep my mouth shut.
I wish there was a way to load these without. I wish there was a way to load these without auto playing. It's annoying.
Oh, I'm sure there's probably a setting somewhere, Steve.
There's not.
Yeah, okay. Well, then there probably will be.
You click open and boom. So, I got to add that to my bitch list to StreamYard. But you had mentioned Richter earlier, and Richter asked me to cross promote a little trailer he's got going, and actually it has Diane Neese in it as well.
Oh, I did see that.
And let me play that real quick for our audience. And oops, hang on. That's not right. Okay, here we go. I think
there isn't a man alive that's going to be able to humiliate me or shame me and to keep my mouth shut.
Hold my beer.
Uh-oh.
So I don't know what's playing, if it stopped or not, but the lag on this is pretty horrible today. So.
Whoop, I'm big. Bob's giving me a hard time. Others said they couldn't watch you, Chris. Too much glare with your bald head. That's probably true, Bob.
That's why I wear a hat.
But the thing that happened though, the kid was tired, and so he climbed up on his mom's back, and it looks kind of funny because my wife, she's a small person, okay, and my son was like basically her size almost at 5 years old, okay, and so she's carrying him on her back, and he's giggling, they're laughing, and this thing is just focused on them, and I'm like, why is he doing that? Why? Well, you don't know what they're thinking.
How far away was it from you guys?
Oh gosh, maybe 25, 30 feet. Yeah, it's pretty close.
How big was it?
Oh, that one was a whopper. My nephew held his hat up to where its face would have been on the side of the tree there, and it was 9 feet to the hat.
Wow.
9 feet. Yeah. So I'm looking, 8.5, 9, somewhere around there.
I don't know if anybody's caught it, but every time I take a drink out of my glass, I'm kind of laughing. This is just a little, not to get off topic, but it's kind of funny. What does it look like I'm drinking here, Chris?
I don't know, that Diet Peach Snapple, or it looked like you're drinking the
water, right? Just a glass of water, right? I'm not.
What is that?
I'm drinking Mountain Dew.
Oh, okay.
Imagine the color of the green screen.
Yes. Okay.
So I mean, the first time I picked the glass up, I'm like,
well, yeah, I can see the background like bleeding through on there. Yeah, it looks like
water. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool.
It's pretty weird.
Okay.
But anyway, well, like the first shirt I wore for tonight's show, I had to take off because it had this green. I was wearing one of my Chautauqua Lake shirts.
Yeah.
And the one I was wearing was my tie-dye one. You've seen me wear it before. I was using the green screen.
Yeah.
And I was hollow. So
I love that stuff.
That's funny. But
so what, Crystal, what do you think? What's your most important piece of equipment in the field?
myself, my ears.
Other than yourself.
Really my recorder. I bring my recorder with me. That's pretty much my recorder and just myself.
You're an audio person then.
Yeah.
I take it. Yeah. Because there's a lot of different types of researchers. I know some like the audio and that's all they do is audio. Norma, who's on my team, she uses audio all the time. Then there's people like Tack. He likes using, therms or night vision. A lot of times he uses therms.
I have a hard time with that, honestly, because it messes up my eyes. I get adjusted. You get your eyes get used to that darkness and being able to see. I mean, I do have a night vision monocular that I use if I do hear something. I just don't want to walk up on a skunk. So, but I like to just, I have my recorder and I like to listen and then my eyes, I'm always looking for footprints or sign or so.
That's a very good point too, Crystal, because if you look down at a screen at night and you look back up, it messes with your night vision. It's like, oh, wait a minute, it takes a minute.
You need a good 5 minutes to readjust.
Yeah. Very good point.
But I think they're really cool. If we're in a stationary position, I honestly, unfortunately, don't own a FLIR. Don't have the funds for that yet. But maybe someday I will. But I'm very slowly building all my equipment. I do not have a parabolic mic yet. I did see somebody ask that.
Yeah, Bob, let me just put that out in chat. Bob asked, "Hey, Crystal, do you use a parabolic mic on your recorder?"
Someday I will. I just don't have one yet.
And the ones they have, the cheaper ones they have, they work great. The problem is they're not really built for recording. They have like this little recorder on it that records like 10 seconds or 12 seconds, and that's it. So what I've had to do is I actually splice a splitter into the headphone jack into one, and I take a patch cord and I plug it into my recorder on the other side. So, and then I tape the recorder to the handle. So I have my little recorder there. So there's a real cheap way of doing that. You can generally pick those cheap parabolic dishes up for about, $40.
I was worried about the quality of
Sound great.
Breaking.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to be careful with them. The most sensitive part of the whole thing is the dish. It's a plastic dish.
Right.
But in yep. And Abe is right with me on that. Says, yep, aux cord and splitter. Yep. And they work like a charm. I bought one. Actually, I got one free because I have an Amazon Prime account. So after I bought my thermal, I got like a $40 credit.
Nice.
So I was like, oh, okay, I'll get the parabolic for nothing.
Yeah. The way to go.
Yeah, it's the way to do it. And
that's the nice thing about Bigfoot research. You're welcome to being out of pocket for everything you do.
Yes.
And there is no backing entity throwing millions of dollars worth of equipment at you. If you get anything, it's because you bought it yourself.
And just so you know, Bob says those $40 ones reach out just as far as the $1,200 ones.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, they. So I was going to say, I put one on. I put it on, and I was like, wow. The sound, and even the headphones that come with it, they were decent. Okay, cool. I can beat them up. I'm not worried about it. And then Ron, who I will be seeing very shortly.
Hi, Ron.
I'll be seeing Ron Thursday evening at dinner. Bob's like, you can hear a mosquito fly by. You sure can.
Yeah, don't forget.
You know,
Steve, don't forget bring your drone because I want to see if we can mount a Glock on it.
No, it ain't. No, now hold on. Now, Chris, the drone doesn't weigh hardly anything.
I did get a drone. I do have a drone, but I have not yet used it on an investigation only because I'm afraid I'm not proficient with it yet, and I don't want to lose it.
Well, I'm very good at crashing them.
That's what I'm afraid I'll be.
Yeah.
Well, you see, the one I have wasn't that expensive either, but I didn't want one that could, for me, it's just about getting up, looking at the terrain real quick, maybe, scouting, daytime only, of course.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing is mine has an auto launch, so it'll launch up to 5 feet, and then I fly it the way I want to. And then when I want it to come back, I just hit the button and it comes back to where I am. And then I hit the land button and it lands right in front of me.
Well, that's probably what I need. I need one that's got like an auto launch because I went up about a foot and a half and it just flipped over and bang, that was it.
Well, you also have to worry about wind because wind will knock them. I mean, you can bring it up real straight and all of a sudden a gust of wind will go. They don't weigh more than a pound, because you got to have that lift.
Well, that's why we need to put the Glock on there. That makes it heavier.
Then it won't. Yeah, you see the thing all.
We might make the news here in Kentucky, Steve.
So is that what you guys are doing on an expedition when you get down there?
Well, Chris is not going to be on the expedition, but we're going out playing a couple of days ahead, of days ahead of time, and into a different area where the expedition's being held at.
It had been my plan to get my COVID shot and have about a week and a half worth of COVID protection on me before I go into areas where it's crowded with people.
Yeah, it's not going to be that crowded, Chris.
But, yeah. That's like the bad thing, when you get to be old and frail like me, when if you get that COVID crap, it's going to be over with for me for sure. So I'm still kind of paranoid about it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it. It's not very good on the camera.
Oh, you're mapping it out. Yep.
Yeah, this is my work in progress. I've been trying to plot every sighting that comes in, whether it's a Class A or a Class B on here, and just trying to see if there's any grouping patterns. But the thing, when I first started plotting it, I was under the assumption that there was going to be a lot more up north in New Hampshire. That's really where the national forests are and things like that. But then it hit me because there's more in the southern region. That's where the people are. So it's where the people are to have the encounters, where you're going to get your reports from. So but I tell people they're all over the state. They're when I used to tell people they were in New York, people would laugh at me, and I'd say, no, I'm telling you, I saw it, and I know it's in New York.
Right.
So and now it's I just love that more and more people are coming out and sharing their encounters, so we can just try to learn more.
Now, if you look up on the screen, this is my work in progress. I have U.S. geological maps of the areas I actively research, and I dotted them. But what I've done is I've started converting them into KMI files or KML file, where now they're all plotted on Google Earth Professional.
I have Google Earth too, and I've done the same thing.
Cool.
Yeah. So I can zoom right in to a particular encounter, where it was.
Yep.
And
I've had people get upset at me. I guess I'm not really upset at me over the map because the map is kind of vague. It just gives you a general idea. Like I do have them plotted on my Google Earth, an exact location, and I put everything on there, and that's really for me only because so many people, here in this state do not want their information shared.
Yeah.
Extremely private here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is my book of cases. It's full of these are spreadsheets that are files, cases that I'm working on, and
Right.
And it just kills me when you look at the website and there's only 16 and you're like, no, really, we are very active here.
Yeah. And the cases that I have on the map are not at private residences. They're all in general public areas, or not people's actual homes.
Yeah.
They're off, different ways. And you can see the what I call the smattering of the pattern.
Yeah.
And anybody that's mentioned by name, they've been on public record. And as you can see, like I said, it's still a work in progress, but that's just, a lot of the ones I've investigated, and then you go into my
pretty interesting. I think you could already map out a travel corridor of what you got right there, Steve.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's.
But I'll tell you what, Crystal, I know how private people can, or they want to be secretive about this stuff.
Yep.
Because a lot of them, even people that I've known for years, would not say anything about it. And then one day they'll say, Chris, you investigate that Bigfoot stuff, don't you? Yeah. He said, well, man, about 12 years ago, I had some weird thing happen to me. I want to tell you about it. And then, okay, that would have been nice to know 12 years ago, but go ahead. And they still, don't mention my name. Don't want anybody going over where it's at. Don't want a bunch of people running in and out over there, still to this day.
So yeah, that's what I run into too. It's like a lot of, I get reports, but I'm waiting for like one that happened yesterday.
You're right.
So I can get out there, and then if I do hear about a case that happened, he just had it happen last weekend.
Right.
They're so afraid of me going. They just don't want their neighbors to even know here. There was a really good one. The gentleman had his windows open at night and heard a strange noise outside his window. And he thought, oh, did I leave the dog outside? So he went downstairs to go see if his dog was outside, and the dog was in its crate. And he was like, okay, well, that was weird. What was that noise I just heard? So he flips on the back light and opens the sliding door and walks out onto the deck. And all of a sudden, this commotion, erupts. All these trees start shaking, going crazy, and all this noise. And of course, this freaks him out. So he runs in the house and grabs his shotgun. And his wife is like trying to look out the window, like, "What's out there? What's out there?" And so he goes to slam the door and he turns the light off. And he said, as he was doing that, he could hear like he was being charged, like this thing was dump, 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 running up towards the deck. So he freaked out and just slammed the door. And he said he could just feel like this thing was staring at him through the door, and it terrified him. So, of course, my reaction is like, well, did you turn the light back on? And he was like, no, I was terrified.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, did you see anything? But then he said he ended up spending the rest of the night pacing the house with that rifle because he felt like these things were going to come right through the door because they were just so loud out there. And my thought process on that was, maybe it was a juvenile, or they had a compost pile in their backyard, and maybe a group got separated, and maybe there was a juvenile or something that made a noise here, and then the trees were just going crazy as a distraction in front of him to get him to look that way and not over, to the other side. But some of his trees were trampled, shrubs and things were trampled, and I tried getting out there a couple times, and then he was actually an officer, and I said, well, he was so terrified. I said, did you call the police? And he's like, I work with these people. I don't want them to know what I'm experiencing. So, and then we just never got out to his location, just because he just was so afraid of what his neighbors and what his friends and colleagues would think at the police department. So, but that was one of my favorite, that's one of my other favorite ones. Had a gentleman here. I wasn't the lead on the case. I actually, Jeff Shepard out of Massachusetts contacted me and said, hey, did you see this report that you got in? He's right over the border. I kind of call him my mentor because if I have any questions or need anything, usually like him or Dave McCullough will come and help me out. So I don't ever like to go to a location alone, and I'm kind of the only active one right now here in New Hampshire. So I'm trying to handle all the cases. So, but we're volunteers, so we do the best we can.
Right.
And if I do have an open case, or you're still waiting, if anybody out there is waiting on me to get in touch with them for a New Hampshire, incident, please be patient. I'm trying to work my way down. I'll get to you eventually, I promise. But a lot of those are older cases. But if I had one that came in and said, "Hey, I just saw something, in my backyard last week," rest assured, you're the top of the list, and I'll be at your house tomorrow. So, like a lot of the cases you had mentioned, about 12 years ago, I saw something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why didn't you call me, then?
Right.
But another interesting case, like I said, Jeff Shepard asked me, he's like, "Hey, do you mind if I take this one?" And I was like, "No, that's fine. Yeah, I got so much on my backlog right now on my plate that I'm working on. That would be great." And then he ended up calling me and said, "Hey, this one's really interesting, and it's the next town over from me." So we ended up going out to this gentleman's site together, and what happened was he owns this big property. It was a quarry, and he was out checking the property, and there was where the old equipment used to run were these big giant ruts. So where the tires used to go.
Yeah.
And as he was walking along one of the ruts, it was getting dusk and kind of dark. He ended up tripping over a root and landing in one of the other ruts. And as he landed on top of something. And this thing stood up and threw him back. And he landed like 12 feet behind him.
Oh.
And this thing stood up, looked at him. He looked at it. He jumped up. It was already jumped up, and it took off that way, and he took off the other way. And it wasn't until he got to his car that he realized he had this handful of hair, a huge clump of hair. And he put it in an envelope. So, I know people get mad at me. They're like, "You still have you have a possible sample that you haven't had tested." I haven't been able to find anybody who can test the hair and do the DNA sample for me here in the state of New Hampshire. I recently just contacted the university to see if they could help me out with it, but they're like, "Oh, with COVID, we'll get back to you when the session starts." And unfortunately, I'm still waiting, or I don't get any responses back from people.
So Crystal, how much hair do you have?
I actually only have a very small sample that I kept for myself. It wasn't my case, but because, I feel very confident with this gentleman and his encounter that I was willing to pay for it myself.
What I can do is I can actually, if you want to send me a single hair, I can buccal swab it.
It looks like there's blood on it too. So.
And I have luminol.
That would be awesome.
I can buccal swab it. I can put it in a tube. I can mail it back to you.
That would be awesome.
And that way you'll actually have an actual buccal swab, and it won't destroy the hair sample.
Well,
all you do is you wet it down with a little bit of saline, and then just swab it.
Okay.
Very lightly, and just swab it.
Okay.
And
if I tripped in the dark and fell on top of a Bigfoot and grabbed a handful of hair on the way up, I guarantee you it would probably be contaminated.
Unfortunately, because it was in his hand.
Well, with mine, I'm certain there would be a urine sample on there as well, because that has got to be the most frightening thing that could ever happen to anyone. Fall on top of a Bigfoot.
Yeah, and it threw him back. He actually, when we went out to meet with him, he was still hobbling because he did hurt his ankle.
Right.
So, and we, unfortunately, we couldn't find he couldn't find the exact location because he said he just boogied it back.
I can imagine. Yeah, I could see that.
We went out there and we walked around. We spent an entire day out there looking for any sign or anything. Wow. But he could not pinpoint the exact location. But he was so sincere. I did truly believe that he had a frightening encounter. Yeah. So, and I did reach out to him recently and asked, emailed him and asked if I could possibly go back and look around again, just to take a look. And but unfortunately he's down. He travels, so he's
Right.
he's in his winter home right now. So I'm hoping that when he gets back, he'll give us the okay to head back over there and explore. Because
That would be awesome.
that was another one of my favorite ones. And I'm, it's
Right.
funny because I kick myself like, oh, why did I give this case up to somebody else? But that's okay. We all work together, so.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
See, this is one of my new projects for this year is I carry a DNA collection kit with me. And I use sterile buccal swabs. And, we put it in the tube when it's done, and then we can send it off to whoever we need to send it off to. That's part one of the project. Part two of the project is, the blood identification. I carry luminol.
Oh, that's cool.
And I have a nice big black light and then part three of it is how many times we hear about, a creature putting its hand on a vehicle or the glass of a trailer or something like that. Well, part three is, fingerprint powder, fingerprint brush, lift tape, and having the identification.
My fingerprint kit.
Good deal.
Yeah,
Oh,
actually,
man.
it's funny because I did go out with Alexander Petikoff once, and we went out with Mike. I can't remember his last name, unfortunately, at the top of my head. The Shaman of the White Mountains is one of Alexander's documentaries, and I had gone out with him, and we did some hiking, and of course, I had this brand new pack, and I'm like, I'm gonna put all my gear in this pack, and I think I had like my fingerprint kit, I had casting powder, I had everything. That bag was so freaking heavy.
Yeah.
I paid the price after that one, especially I was sick when I went, and I was like, why did I carry all this equipment? But then it's like, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you do want to make sure you have your equipment. I do have I have a kit that has like tweezers, gloves, plastic baggies, paper baggies.
And there's
all this stuff in it. So.
And you're absolutely welcome. Leon, I had a blast last night myself. Leon was part of that show I was on last night, and you can visit his channel over at Bigfoot Canagan on YouTube. Just there's the name. You can just search that on YouTube, and that'll pop up his channel. So we'll do a little cross promotion for him.
Yeah. That, and for the podcast listeners, that would be Bigfoot Okanagan.
Canagan.
Okanagan. Yeah.
So check it out. I think that, that we need to step up our game, and you're doing it, obviously, is you got to have, I have Ultra Cal. I have, the luminol mixture, which it's actually a dry powder bottle. It's a one-time use bottle. So you got to use it sparingly, and it's got to be something. And you got to carry a bottle of distilled water to mix with it. You got to carry your forensic stuff with you.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're going to miss out, and that's really what's going to tip the scale. A lot of times we have these conversations of, what's it going to take? What's it going to take? Why? Well, we have all these things very available to us. 20 years ago, it was impossible to get luminol and getting DNA collection stuff. I mean, DNA was in its infancy 20 years ago when I started this. So,
the backpack is not getting any lighter, Steve.
No, it's
Definitely
not. No, it's
because then
not.
you also have to make sure you carry some water because
Yeah, that's the thing.
Well,
you don't know if there's going to be a stream nearby for you to get some water.
Well, what I do is I do carry some flags with me. So if I do come across a track, I flag it, mark it on the GPS, and then I go back and get my plasters in my water.
Oh, that's a good idea. I just got this little Garmin that is a GPS that will tell me exactly where I am. So like I can track it, like I can tag my car.
Oh yeah.
And then I can leave and go around, and then I can just tell it car, and then it will take me back to where I need to go.
So here's another little secret I have. Here's my GPS right here. It's actually a Garmin watch.
There you go.
That has the GPS tracking on it.
That's cool. Yeah, this one you can just clip right on. So
yeah, when you get out into an area, and it's the first time you're going out, I could see a real heavy backpack, lots of water, those casting compounds, all that stuff in there.
Hey,
and you're fine. I'm fine with that. The first time I'm going in there, but after I get to know the area, it's like at the truck, I'm looking at my backpack. Do I really need all this water? Not really. I think I could probably do with one bottle of water would be fine.
I used to bring 2 backpacks, one with all my casting and collection stuff in it, and then my other one with just like necessities from water for me,
Right.
Yeah. But
and that one always wins out on what to carry. Do I want to bring the plaster or do I want to bring the food? I'll bring the food.
Exactly.
Abe told me just work out, Steve. It'll get better. I wish I could, but I herniated a couple of discs in my upper back and my neck, and it's still being a little bit of a crank. So I wish I could work out, but it kills. Getting better every day, but still, it still kills.
Works out like a madman.
Yeah, Abe is like
the beast.
Yeah.
What does he say? Train insane or remain the same.
That's right.
I think it's something like that. He says it all the time.
Well, there, you wanted to be on the show, so there you are. Got a visit from my big orange cat, which we thoughtfully named Morris because he looks like the cat on the cat food.
Yeah, see, my dogs aren't bothering me anymore because they don't need to go outside.
Oh, yeah.
They've been taken care of.
They're happy now.
But
I wanted to ask Crystal, and I apologize, Crystal, because I know this has been like from when you were 6 years old. But do you remember seeing that night, was there any eye shine of any type from the creature that was in your house with you?
You know, it's funny because I can remember eyes. Like I really can remember eyes, but I can't tell you. It was backlit.
Right.
That's why I'm sometimes
That's the
I'm
problem.
like, why?
Yeah. The light was on the back. Okay.
Yeah, it was backlit when I first saw it. Then when we saw it in the daytime, you know, when it was stood up from behind that vehicle,
right.
It made eye contact with us, turned around and walked into the woods. And people have asked me, well, what did its nose look like? What did its mouth look like? Honestly, I cannot tell you because I was just so focused on its eyes that's all I saw.
So when you saw the eyes, were they dark? Or were they,
They were dark. You know, I just remember a really dark color.
Yeah.
But I was just so focused on those. But, you know, there's been times I have seen, and I'm not saying it was Bigfoot because, again, I don't have any proof, but I have seen red glowing eyes across the road in front of us, look at us and turn and keep going. And it's like, what the hell was that?
Right.
So, I mean, I didn't have the high beams on coming up the hill. It just was the eyes. And it's like, dang it. Yeah. Hindsight. Why didn't I put the high beams on? Why didn't I, what was that? Was it an owl? First thing I did when I got home was Google, what has red eyes?
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then it's like, it's mixed. But I've talked to a lot of people who have had encounters where they've seen eyes. And it's not even like eye shine, it's glow. So it's hard to say. Sometimes people have seen white glowing eyes, sometimes orange glowing eyes. I talked to a gentleman, he had blue, like he saw multiple colors. He had blue and then one was orange. So, and I would love to learn more about it. I'm just so fascinated by the subject. So I want to learn as much as I can.
Got a question in the chat. Do people ask about nose, mouth, ears, etc., maybe to get an idea of species or possible species?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think it's just like people. There's so many different varieties and shapes of people that I think Sasquatch is probably the same way.
Sure.
The skunk ape down in Florida, they say is kind of, stinky and
shorter and
So it's just, I think it varies also on region.
Well, one of the things people, ask, and it's one of these questions. Do you think that, the Sasquatch is maybe there's different species like the Yeren and maybe the Yeti is different than the Sasquatch and it's different than the skunk ape? And then I'm like, whoa. It's a stretch right now saying that there's one unidentified primate roaming the forest of North America and South America and Asia, let alone now saying there's 3. So it's kind of, primates are very dimorphic, so we come in all sizes, shape, and colors. So
yep. Yeah, I love your Stop the Woonacy too, by the way. When you came up with that, I started cracking. I'm like, that is awesome. I try to stay open because I've talked to so many different people who have had so many different types of encounters where they've actually had them kind of disappear in front of them. And I'm not saying that they go transparent, but it just kind of vanished. But I can't say they didn't see what they saw because they obviously saw something.
So I have a really good explanation for a lot of that. And I don't know if you've ever, that's one of them. I mean, you see a deer cross the road, it goes on the other side of the road and you drive by.
Yeah.
It was there 2 seconds ago. Now you don't see it. Where is it? But now think about your experience when you were 6. You had an amnesia episode right after seeing it.
Right.
What I think is happening is people are, here they are face to face with it, or it's such a traumatic event that they're having an amnesiac episode where they're coming out of it and it's gone. So what they're saying is there it is, and the next thing you know, it's gone.
Oh,
That's number 1. Number 2, in this, I got talking with Leon about last night. He proposes that sometimes people want to see Bigfoot and they hallucinate, they see a Bigfoot, and then they come out of it and it's gone.
Yeah, I think if you go into the woods with the anticipation, the expectation of seeing one, then if you hear a twig crack, you're going to think it's a Bigfoot. And people get mad at me when I say not everything in the woods is Bigfoot. I've had so many people get mad at me over that. And it's like, but it's true. Not everything in the woods is Bigfoot just because you hear a twig snap or, unfortunately here in New England, we do have a lot of trees that break. And I'm kind of really up in the air on stick structures.
Yeah, I'm not really buying into all of them either. Western
New York
Bigfoot says, but at one point there were many bipedal species. But we also have to remember at that time, the world wasn't explored as it is now. So you have this large primate running around, but now we're supposed to saying there's 3 separate species. I don't think so. I think there's one species and they're just dimorphic. Makes a lot of sense to me why the Sasquatch are taller and lankier in the Northeast. They're more robust in the Pacific Northwest, and they're actually smaller in the tropical areas such as Florida, the skunk ape, the orang pendek over in Malaysia and Southeast Asia. The Yeren isn't supposedly as robust as the Pacific Northwest Bigfoot.
Yeah. Even the Yowie. The Yowie is really thin and lanky.
Right. So I think what you're seeing is the same that you see here in with other primates, the Homo sapien line. If you think about it, look at the size of the folks that come from Ecuador and Bolivia and even parts of Mexico. They're not very tall. And that's that tropical, warm, equatorial type of environment. But then you go to like Minnesota and you get all these big, the big dudes. I mean, look at Brock Lesnar, for God's sakes, came from Minnesota. He's huge. He's a beast.
Yeah, you get a lot of physical trait variation just between the known species of mountain gorilla versus lowland gorillas. A lot of different physical variations. They're still gorillas.
Well, even here we have the moose. The moose here are a heck of a lot. I mean, they're huge, but they're a heck of a lot smaller than the ones in Alaska.
Yeah.
So Alaska's got monster moose.
And bears.
Yes, that too.
I mean, you think about it, the further north you go, I mean, you have the black bears more to the plains through the northeast of, and even, you know, through Washington. But then you go to Montana, a little bit further north, you've got the grizzlies, you know, the big guys. And then you go to Alaska and you get the Kodiaks, even bigger. And then you go to Alaska, even further north, and the Arctic, and you got the polar bears, which are the biggest.
Yeah.
So I mean, it does make sense for all animals that, you know, the colder. I mean, and then food source has a lot to do with it too. I mean, you think about it. I've said this a lot of times. You know, your average South Korean is 5'9". Your average North Korean is 5'7". That 2-inch difference is due to nutrition. So again, if there's a nutritional lack of nutrition, you know, you're gonna find yourself with you know, a lot of stunted growth. So, you know, fair question, but good point. Just trying to see if there's any, OT says northern climates tend to produce larger animals. Look at the horses, northern and colder climates. Exactly. And there's the equine, groupings. So we've looked at ursas, we've looked at equine, we've looked at primate, you know, when it comes to Homo sapiens, and you can see the dimorphism. So, and due to you know, climate. So, and then you wonder why, like the saber-toothed tigers went extinct, you know, and they were predominantly in South America. So yeah, it's very strange indeed. But you want to look at the creature spread. You know, I think I've said this before, but I used to live in Cohoes, New York, which is about 8 miles north of Albany. Well, in 1898, they uncovered a 98% complete mastodont skeleton.
Wow.
I mean, there's a mastodon in upstate New York. It looks like an elephant, for crying out loud. And they were roaming the Northeast at one point in time. But it is a good point, though, Western. There was a point that, you know, Homo sapiens and Neanderthal walked the planet together. Two different upright walking hominids that I don't know if there was other ones that walked upright at the same time, where there was 3 or 4 of them. But I do know of that particular period, where maybe there was a period of time when Neanderthal and maybe Homo erectus were around, and so.
Yep, it's pretty cool. Every time they find out something new about the human species, we learn a whole lot, and a lot of the stuff found out in the last few years just totally trashed everything that was in the books up till then. The Denisovans, yes.
And OT, the answer to that question is no, I haven't seen that. They have a really interesting section about massive bears reported by the Inuit. Yeah, and then again, you know, you'll have massive size if the food source is wonderful. You know, if you have a lot of nutrition, and that's right. Prairie Fire with Bergman's roll, absolutely. We've talked that actually was brought up. You know, that was brought up last night as well when we were in Squatch Talk.
Our listeners are so smart. You guys are like, you know, great scientists. Thank you.
Sorry.
Wonderful.
Abe made me laugh. Sorry.
Sean Godet said, Southern New Hampshire, the Squatch like the acorn and nuts, not so much the berries. And that's the other thing too, is that the one thing I've always said as well is that you don't go to Florida and try to bait a skunk ape with an apple. It's not, you know, they're not used to apples in Florida. Conversely, you wouldn't go to New York and try to bait a Sasquatch in orange. Yeah. Because, you know, they're not used to it. You have to use the food that they're used to. Yep. But there are some surefire things like, you know, raw meats and you know, local vegetation. You know, I bet you put a head of lettuce. Nobody ever thought about how about a head of lettuce?
Cabbage.
You know,
cabbage.
That's why they get the skunk ape. That's where they get that smell from.
Well, just so you guys know, I'm hoping within the next. I'm hoping
5 minutes.
Next few years that I can. I really want to get back up to New York, to that location. I still have family that live up there. And if you go out to Google Earth, those 3 trailers are still there. They haven't built anything up out there. It's still the same as it used to be. And there's nothing but swamps and apple orchards back there. So my dream, when I was a kid and we would go back and visit, I would be terrified and like I couldn't sleep in the camper. I wouldn't want to be outside at night. I had to sleep on the couch in the living room just because I was not going to be outdoors after dark.
Right.
And I'm dying to go back out there now and look, and I just want to talk to, knock on doors. Hey, if people probably think I'm going to be crazy, but I really want to talk to people up there and maybe even I don't know if anybody would show up if it's still kind of taboo up there. Do you know if it's more taboo up that way, and do like a town hall type meeting just to get encounters and then just try to get feedback from people?
I don't have my pulse on that particular area, but it's worth a shot. I bet you people would show up.
I would hope so.
But if you're ever interested in obviously, if you go out there, let me know. Maybe I'll go out with you.
That would be
I'll go
awesome.
out there with you, and nothing like, I don't believe, I think, Oswego, correct? Not Owego.
Oswego.
Oswego. Yep.
Oswego.
Yep. Absolutely. I think Tack is not very far from there either. He's probably closer.
I can share with you I have a map with the GPS coordinates exactly where it was, so you can even pin it on a map and take a look and just see what else is around there. I mean, there is nothing but.
Yep. That area is pretty.
Apple orchards and farms. And
but if you ever want to tromp around Whitehall, give me a shout.
I would love to. That's actually I have not been there yet. Bucket list item.
September, put it on your calendar. September 25th is the Whitehall Sasquatch Calling Festival.
Oh, very cool.
So, I'll be up there. I'm sure Brian Goslin will be up there. Bill Brand, Paul Bartholomew, probably Frank Cicienski. Well, the whole gaggle of us will be up there, and I'm emceeing the Sasquatch Calling Festival again for the 3rd year. And it's a lot of fun. Everybody yelling their brains out.
That's cool.
They have an adult division and they have the kids division, and the adult division scares the hell out of me.
I can't do a really loud, if I do a call, mine's just a little whoop, I can't do the whole roar. My voice, my tone is not there.
OT's got a good plan here.
Western New York Bigfoot says also, if you want to help up, he would go with you.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I do want to go up there. I really do. Like I said, I still have family up there. And
if Western New York wants to come east and hit Whitehall, let me know.
No, Abe, I cannot show you my my rendition of a Bigfoot vocalization.
Oh, Abe.
I'm in the house. It would be too loud. I'm very loud.
OT's killing me over in the chat. OT says, put some cigarettes, which are lit. The first Bigfoot to smoke gets hooked, then it will do anything for another smoke.
That's right.
Long-term plan. Hey, primates have a weakness for cigarettes. I'm telling you, they do. This is a fact. I guarantee it. There was a chimpanzee over at Holloman. Okay, maybe this is wrong, but anyway, I would light a cigarette, pitch it over through the cage. He would pick it up and smoke it down to the filter every time. Every time. They loved it.
And what year was that? You can't do that now.
Oh, no.
Bob says then roll him a blunt. Which by the way is now legal in New York.
Well, they might consider oranges and cabbages and lettuce after that. I don't know. Munchies.
No, I was going to say, leave a little meth out for the. Then you get a crack squatch.
Oh no.
I have to say that when I was out in California, that was the one thing that really freaked me out was the tweakers and how homeless people that whole homelessness over there on that coast. I live in a log cabin in the middle of nowhere in New Hampshire. We don't experience that. So when I was in California, it was like San Francisco. It was quite a culture shock.
Yeah.
So When I was military. So 10 days after I graduated high school, I was at basic training. And my first tour, I was stationed in Madrid, in Torrejon. And that was a culture shock as well.
Right. Yeah.
Just the whole different nightlife. They come alive at night, and that whole nightlife. When you were doing your disco beat earlier, that cracked me up. But
thank you for your service.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Crystal.
There's nothing like arresting somebody for stealing like several $100s worth of stuff, and then you're doing a search and you end up pulling out $5,000 worth of heroin.
Oh no!
Like, oh, what is all this? The night just got more complicated.
More paperwork.
So yeah,
That's
very
funny.
Very interesting. It is a culture shock when you go to the West Coast from the East Coast.
Well, that's if you ever want to see why Chris lives in the country, just go to a big city. Just pick one. It doesn't matter.
I agree.
And then look around. You watch around and maybe half hour, you're going to figure out exactly why Chris Bennett lives in the country.
Well, I look around and I say, yeah, nice place to visit. All right, it's cool. I've been to the city a few times. All right, cool. Nice place to visit. Go in there, catch a really good meal. Like the last time I was down the city, I went to Katz's Deli. Oh, I had a pastrami sandwich that was about that thick. Phenomenal.
That's true. You can find anything to eat in the city. My husband's company that he works for is out of Scottsdale, and usually every year they fly us down for a Christmas party. And when we get down to Scottsdale, it's just amazing. No matter what time of day or night, you can hit a club, a bar, a restaurant, any place, just walking distance. And you're like at home, everything closes at 9:00 if we're lucky, if not 7:00. And we have like one delivery. It's a pizza place,
Yeah. Well, Prairie Fire just threw a quick story in the chat. My father threw a smoke to a baboon once. The baboon picked it up from the wrong end.
Oh,
all hell broke loose.
Oh no. Well,
baboons are not higher primates, and they're pretty damn nasty and mean-tempered. So phooey on them.
They are.
Chimpanzees can smoke. Take my word for it. They can smoke.
When
Inhale, everything.
Throwing car tires in his surgeons. That poor bastard.
When I was stationed in Spain, we took a trip to Benidorm for like this little base trip. And as I was walking around Benidorm, some guy just came up and threw a chimpanzee at me. And its chimpanzee was hanging off of me, and he's like trying to take pictures and then charging me money because $20 for a photograph after he'd already taken the photo. And I was like, no, you can have your monkey back. But just the muscle, I couldn't believe how strong it was.
Their muscle density is incredible. They would give Abe a challenge.
He's working on it though. He'll be there soon. He's already there.
He's looking to beat up a Sasquatch.
When the dude threw the chimpanzee on you, you should have took off running with it.
Where would I put it? I was stationed.
Oh well, yeah.
That would have been cool though.
That would have been frowned upon at the barracks.
Yeah. I don't know if they would have liked that.
Well, anyway, we're wrapping up the show. We have 6 minutes left. So, see how quick
you were
it goes?
right. 2 hours went quick. You're right.
It always goes by so fast.
I was so worried that I'm like, what are we going to talk about for 2 hours? But
and there it is. See, I told you it never ends.
What?
And we always get a little.
I'm sorry, Crystal. I just want to know what branch of service were you in?
Air Force.
Yes, Air Force.
Both my brothers are in the Air Force as well.
I have my Air Force sister tonight. Yes, thank goodness.
Honestly, I was only 17 when I went in. So my dad had to sign all the paperwork for me to even enlist. Yeah. So that was one thing. He wanted me to make sure that I had, a branch where I wasn't in danger. Not saying the Air Force, you're not in danger, but being a woman and a young girl at the time, I was only 17 when I was stationed in Madrid. So, I was a glorified secretary. I worked for the generals, and I worked, on the flight line in a small detachment. There were only 3 to 5 of us, depending on the time of year or so.
Right.
But then during Desert Storm, I worked at headquarters. So I worked with all the classified materials coming in and had to distribute them and things like that. So it was really fun. I did love it. I was mad because my whole unit, all 5 of us, 5 of them got deployed. And because I was the only female, I had to stay. Oh, you have to run the office. But at the time I was mad. What the heck? Everybody else is getting deployed and I got to stay because I'm a girl. I wasn't happy, but.
Well, Stormin' Norman was one of my heroes. Love Stormin' Norman. Read his autobiography. What an interesting life. He grew up in Iran.
Wow.
His father was the ambassador to Iran. That's why he intrinsically understood the mentality of the enemy.
Wow.
Which was really incredible to know. But he passed away several years ago, unfortunately, and he's actually buried in West Point, New York.
Oh, okay.
So they buried him at West Point. But Naughty's taking off. A few people are taking off now. So any final parting thoughts, Crystal, before we get our business done for the night?
Wow, I think we kind of covered everything. I know as soon as I get off with you guys, I'm going to be like, oh, dang, I should have said this. And oh, dang, I should have told them about that. And oh, I should have said that.
And as my grandfather would say, no postmortems.
I always, like I said, I always try to stay open-minded. I talk to everybody about their encounters, regardless of how crazy it might sound. Everybody has their own experiences. Like I said, I'm a paranormal investigator too. So, I deal with a lot of unusual things in that realm as well. So
and when I love to, like me, I've done paranormal. I've done a lot of paranormal investigations as well. We can separate the two phenomenon as separate phenomena. And that's
it's hard because sometimes people will say that they've encountered something in the woods and it was Bigfoot. But my reaction to them is, well, it could have been something else. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of other things out there. Absolutely. So it doesn't mean it was a Bigfoot. It could have been something else. So not everything is Bigfoot. I guess that's my motto.
And OT loves asking this question. Do you believe in a government cover-up on Bigfoot?
Yeah. Okay. I think there's got to be something. I mean, they obviously know something. How long have they kept aliens quiet? And now they're just coming out with, some evidence here from the Pentagon that I'm still waiting to get my hands on to read. So, but there's all kinds of unusual things out there, and I don't see why they wouldn't try to keep something like that hidden. Yep. I mean, for safety reasons, people are going to be freaked out. You don't want to scare the masses. So,
I think they just want to save the almighty dollar.
Yeah, what would happen to the logging industry? Or anything for that matter if it was proven to exist. So
I don't think it's to the degree as like the UFOs, because that's like a national security thing. But I think it's kind of like their cover up as well. We'll just push it to the side and ignore it. Maybe issue a statement that we don't believe this is real. And that's really their extent. I don't think they're actively like, we need to follow this person or stuff like that. Yeah.
And like the big natural places, the big national parks, stuff where people go for recreation, camping and stuff. I mean, if Bigfoot was proven real, wouldn't they have to put up some sort of disclaimer or warning,
Yep.
Maybe local area may be inhabited by Sasquatch or something.
Do you think that would hinder people from going out camping and things like that?
That's a good question. I don't know whether it would like keep people away or
draw people there.
Wouldn't keep nuts like us from going out there going, come on, let's go.
Some people's going to be drawn to it, but other people's going to be like, what? I'm not going out there with a hairy monkey, man.
I think if I heard something yelling in the woods or even ghost hunting, I'm the one that's going to be going and checking it out versus running the other direction, because I want to know what I just heard or saw versus,
David Witter said there's no
second guess.
David Winter said there's no cougars in Tennessee. I've been in Nashville bars. There's plenty of cougars. Anyway. Anyway, on that note, Chris is dying on that one.
Oh, Lord.
No comments, Abe.
But anywho, well, Crystal, thank you for coming on tonight. And I appreciate it. I told you it wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be, was it?
It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I typically don't do the live ones because it just makes me so nervous. And I'm like, what if I mess up or what if I say something stupid? But I appreciate everything. Thank you so much.
If you said something stupid, I'm sure Chris and I would beat you within 5 minutes of saying something more stupid.
Yeah, I was saying something stupid is my job.
And my job.
See, I knew Abe was going to say it.
Oh, Lord.
And David just turned around and said, I was waiting for that one. I was waiting for that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, Chris, do your thing, brother.
Yeah, again, I want to thank our lovely guest, Crystal. Been great having you on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I want to thank all of our listeners and chat room occupants. You guys are sharp. We appreciate you each and every week you join us, and we appreciate it so much. And if it's the first time you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us, please hit the like, subscribe, share button. It helps us out, gets us found in the search algorithm. You know, we don't have millions of dollars to promote our show. Okay, so help us out. Thanks.
Not yet, but soon we're going to be opening the Patreon account. Yeah. And the Patreon account, I'm just going to make this a real quick. I'm hoping that we're like T-minus 1 month, maybe 3 weeks to a month away from opening the Patreon account. And there's going to be some exclusive content. We're working on several things right now for the Patreon page, which is going to be really super awesome, as my ex-boss used to say. So anyway, I just want to thank again, Crystal, for coming on. I want to take this time to wish everybody a happy and safe, healthy week. We will be back in a couple of weeks. Next week, I'll be on the road coming home from hopefully a very exciting trip to Kentucky and seeing my good friend, my best friend in Bigfoot, Mr. Chris Bennett. And we're going to have some fun out there, and looking forward to seeing, Charlie Raymond with the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization, David Wickham, and who am I forgetting? Oh, yes, Ron Bowles. Can't forget Ron.
Ron's awesome. I love Ron.
So looking forward to me. And Ron and I have known each other for years, so it's going to be great actually connecting with him. So anyway, again, everybody have a happy, safe, healthy week. Want to, wish everybody the best. Hey, we're getting through COVID. We're almost there, folks. Almost there. I think another 4 or 5 months will be all be behind us. So keep the faith. God bless. And of course, keep on squatching. We'll catch you all next week.
Thank you.
Folks, you've been watching Squatch-D TV. Join us each week, Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, for the latest on the Bigfoot mystery. As always, we thank you for being our loyal viewers and encourage all to subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com/Steve Kulls. As always, have a great week. Stay safe. God bless. And keep on squatching.